Welcome to Learn with Aprajita, where English core comes to life. Just like the Tiger King thought he could outsmart fate, many students believe English core is all about memorization. But here we prove otherwise. We break down literature, analyze poetry, and simplify writing skills. So you don't just study English, you master it. Whether it's understanding satire in the Tiger King or perfecting your answer writing, we have got you covered. Don't leave your learning to fate. Take charge, hit subscribe, and join our journey to ace English score, one lesson at a time. In today's video, we are diving deep into The Tiger King by Kalki. This satirical tale is more than just a story about a king obsessed with tigers. It's a sharp critique of power, fate, and irony. Here's what we'll cover in this session. By the end of this video, you will have everything you need to tackle any question on the Tiger King with confidence. So stay tuned, take notes, and let's crack English core together. Let's have an overview of the Tiger King. Kalki's The Tiger King is a satirical short story that highlights the foolishness of those in power, the irony of fate, and the absurdity of blind ambition. It follows the life of the Maharaja of Pratibandhapuram, who becomes obsessed with hunting tigers after an astrologer predicts that his death will be caused by one. In his desperate attempt to defy fate, the king hunts and kills 99 tigers, believing he has successfully conquered his destiny. However, irony strikes when he dies not because of a real tiger, but due to a small defective toy tiger, proving that fate always finds a way. At birth, the king's future is predicted by royal astrologers. They declare that since he was born under the influence of stars associated with tigers, his death will be caused by a tiger. The young prince, showing arrogance even as a child, dismisses the prediction. However, once he becomes king, he takes the prophecy seriously and declares war against all tigers in his kingdom. As he grows older, the Maharaja turns his life's mission into killing tigers. He imposes a rule that no one but him can hunt them. His obsession reaches such an extent that he threatens and punishes officials if anything obstructs his goal. When the number of tigers in his own kingdom decreases, he even marries a princess from another state, not out of love, but because her kingdom has more tigers. A British officer interested in tiger hunting visits his kingdom. The Maharaja fears that if he allows the officer to hunt, his target of 100 tigers will be reduced. To avoid trouble with the British, he allows the officer's wife to take expensive gifts instead. This highlights colonial influence and how Indian kings bowed to British whims to maintain power. After years of hunting, the Maharaja reaches the 99th tiger but struggles to find the last one. Under pressure, his divan arranges for a week-old tiger from a zoo to be secretly brought into the forest. The Maharaja shoots it, believing he has fulfilled the prophecy. However, his bullet misses and the tiger is later killed by his soldiers without his knowledge. Believing he has conquered his fate, the king relaxes for the first time and buys a wooden toy tiger for his son's birthday. The cheaply made toy has a sharp splinter which pricks his finger. The wound gets infected, leading to his death. Ironically, the astrologer's prophecy comes true not by a real tiger but by a toy tiger, proving that fate cannot be defeated. Here are some key takeaways from the story. Kalki masterfully blends humor and irony to deliver a thought-provoking message. No one, not even a powerful king, can escape fate. Now let's look at the characters from the chapter. The Tiger King, arrogant and obsessed, the king is consumed by pride and believes he can defy fate. His obsession with killing 100 tigers stems from a desire to prove his invincibility. Tyrannical, he imposes harsh rules on his kingdom and shows cruelty towards his subjects and officials. Ironic downfall. Despite his efforts to control fate, he dies from a toy tiger, highlighting the inevitability of destiny. The royal astrologer, wise but powerless. The astrologer predicts the king's death by tiger but is ignored. He symbolizes the inescapability of fate. Symbol of fate. His prophecy remains true even though the king refuses to acknowledge it. The Divan, cunning and opportunistic. The Divan deceives the king to save his own life, showing his political survival instinct. Political manipulator. He symbolizes those who deceive and flatter powerful rulers for self preservation. The British officer, colonial influence, represents the colonial presence in India. His desire for a tiger hunt contrasts with the Maharaja's obsession, highlighting the power dynamics of the time. Let us look now at the setting of the story. The story is set in the kingdom of Pratibandhapuram, a fictional state in India during the British colonial period. The setting plays a crucial role in enhancing the themes and adding depth to the narrative. Royalty and power. The setting of a royal kingdom highlights the absolute power the Maharaja holds over his subjects as he makes life and death decisions based on his obsession with tigers. The palace and the hunting grounds serve as symbols of his control and pride. This story is set during British rule, which is reflected in the presence of the British officer and the interaction between him and the Maharaja. The officer's role symbolizes the colonial power dynamics, with Indian rulers often subjugating themselves to British whims to maintain their positions. The tiger and the natural surroundings play an important symbolic role. The forests and the royal hunting grounds represent Maharaja's confrontation with fate as he attempts to assert control over the wild animals, yet ultimately falls victim to an inanimate toy. This contrast between the natural world and the human ambition is key to the story's irony. The setting is a distant, isolated kingdom amplifies the Maharaja's disconnection from reality. The king's obsession with tigers and his decisions are shaped by his sense of detachment, leading him to ignore the needs of his kingdom and the significance of fate. In a sense, the setting serves to reinforce the themes of power, fate, and the illusion of control, highlighting the Maharaja's internal and external conflicts. Let's now look at the important aspects to focus on this chapter. The central theme of the story revolves around the irony of the Maharaja's death. Despite his obsessive efforts to kill 100 tigers to defy the prophecy, the king dies in an unexpected way by a toy tiger, which symbolizes how fate is often beyond human control. The Maharaja's pride and arrogance are key to his character. His belief that he can control his destiny by hunting tigers illustrates his hubris. The story emphasizes that no matter how powerful one may be, they cannot escape the inevitable. The story's satirical nature mocks the Maharaja's obsession and the lengths to which he goes to fulfill a self-imposed goal. Kalki uses humor and exaggeration to criticize not just the king but also the blind ambition and misuse of power. The interaction with the British officer is significant because it reflects the colonial influence on Indian rulers. The officer's involvement in the story highlights how Indian royalty often had to appease British authority, symbolizing the subservience of Indian kings to colonial power. The Diwan's manipulation of the king shows the theme of political survival. His trickery, where he presents an old tiger as a kill, underscores the cunning involved in serving a powerful and unpredictable ruler. This manipulation represents how people often act out of self-interest, using deceit to preserve their positions. The tiger is the central symbol in the story. It represents both faith and nature, with the king's obsession with killing tigers symbolizing his attempts to overcome fate. Ultimately, the tiger also symbolizes the king's downfall, as he cannot control his destiny even in the face of overwhelming efforts. The tragic irony of the king's death emphasizes the futility of his actions. His belief that he could escape the prophecy only leads to his ironic end, dying from a toy tiger, not a real one. This ironic twist serves to underscore the story's theme that one cannot escape fate. The king's excessive greed and desire for power lead to his exploitation of both nature and his people. His actions reveal a deep disconnect from reality as he is blinded by his need to control the world around him. This reflects humanity's inability to confront its limitations. Focusing on these aspects will help you understand the story's core messages, its critique of power, faith, and human folly, and the way these themes are explored through the characters and settings. Let's have a critical analysis of the Tiger King. The Tiger King satirizes the idea of absolute power. The Maharaja's obsession with controlling nature and achieving his goal of killing 100 tigers reflects his belief in his invincibility. However, the story shows that true power is not in controlling everything around you, but in understanding your limitations. His tragic end symbolizes the futility of unchecked power. The Maharaja's journey is a perfect example of hubris, excessive pride, and confidence. His attempts to defy fate by hunting tigers are ultimately futile, showing how humans often overestimate their control over life and death. The irony of his death at the hands of a toy tiger reflects how hubris blinds us to the forces of fate and destiny. The story critiques the foolishness of trying to control what cannot be controlled. The theme of faith is central to the story. The king is warned by the astrologer that he will die from a tiger, but his obsession leads him to believe he can escape fate by killing tigers. The story's ironic conclusion, his death by a toy tiger, highlights the inevitable nature of fate, no matter how much one tries to change it. This narrative critiques the idea of free will against the backdrop of inevitable destiny. Through the British officer's character, the story critiques the colonial influence in India during British rule. The officer's arrival for a tiger hunt symbolizes the foreign domination and the hierarchical power structures that shaped the behavior of Indian rulers at the time. The Maharaja's eagerness to impress the officer by offering the hunt reflects how many Indian rulers acted in ways that catered to colonial expectations. Kalki uses satire to mock the sycophantic attitudes of Indian royalty under British rule. The Maharaja's relentless killing of tigers, along with his lack of respect for the natural world, symbolizes the exploitation of nature by those in power. His disregard for life, whether human or animal, illustrates the destructive consequences of unchecked greed. The tiger, as a symbol of nature, ultimately takes its revenge on the Maharaja, showing that those who exploit nature will face its uncontrolled forces. Kalki employs humor to critique societal and political issues. The exaggerated portrayal of the Maharaja's obsession, along with the ironic twist of his death, serves as a sharp commentary on human folly and the absurdity of trying to control fate. The story's satirical tone is effective in making serious points about power, greed, and arrogance while maintaining a light, ironic perspective. The central moral of the Tiger King is a warning against arrogance and the illusion of control. The story teaches that no matter how much power one has, faith and nature will ultimately prevail. The king's death serves as a reminder that human beings should not try to overstep their bounds by challenging forces beyond their control. By examining these critical aspects, we see that the Tiger King is not just a story about a ruler's obsession with tigers. It is a deeper critique of power, human limitations, and faith. Kalki's use of satire, irony, and symbolism makes it a thought provoking piece on the dangers of hubris and the inevitability of destiny. Let's now look at the themes in The Tiger King. A central theme of The Tiger King is the inexorable nature of fate. Despite the Maharaja's attempt to outsmart destiny, the story illustrates that fate cannot be avoided. His death by a toy tiger, even after he killed 100 real tigers, underscores the theme that no matter how hard one tries to control their destiny, fate will always prevail. The Maharaja's excessive pride and self importance are central to the story. His belief that he can control everything, especially nature, demonstrates the dangers of hubris. His downfall serves as a warning about the consequences of arrogance and thinking oneself invincible in the face of natural forces and fate. The Maharaja's absolute power leads to his tyrannical rule and moral decay. He exploits nature, deceives his people, and is blind to the suffering he causes. This theme examines how absolute power corrupts and how individuals in positions of authority may become disconnected from reality and make reckless decisions that ultimately lead to their ruin. The Diwan's actions in tricking the Maharaja about killing a tiger reveal the theme of deception as a survival tool. The Diwan manipulates the situation to protect himself, reflecting how people often resort to cunning and deceit to maintain their positions of power in oppressive systems. The British officers' involvement in the story subtly hints at the colonial presence in India during the British Raj. The Maharaja's eagerness to impress the officer through the tiger hunt represents the exploitation of both nature and people in an effort to maintain power and please foreign rulers. The themes critiques the subservience of Indian rulers to British authorities and the consequences of colonial rule. The conflict between the Maharaja and the tigers represents the struggle between human ambition and the forces of nature. While the king believes he can dominate nature, the story suggests that nature is an unstoppable force that cannot be controlled by human will alone. The Maharaja's eventual downfall emphasizes that humans are ultimately powerless against the natural world. Throughout the story, the Maharaja believes he can control his life and death by killing tigers. But this illusion of control is shattered when he dies from a toy tiger. This theme focuses on how humans often feel the need to assert control over things they cannot, ultimately leading to their destruction. It underscores the dangers of trying to overstep natural boundaries. The role of the astrologer introduces the theme of prophecy and its power. While the king disregards the astrologer's warning, his death proves that the prophecy was true. This theme suggests that certain events are preordained and cannot be altered, no matter how much one tries to change them. These themes, fate, hubris, power deception, and the relationship between man and nature are woven together in The Tiger King to create a narrative that both entertains and provides deep social commentary. By examining these themes, readers are encouraged to reflect on their own lives, the forces that shape them, and the limits of control. Let us now look at the reference to context from this chapter one by one. Here, the king's obsession with tigers is established early on, showing how deeply ingrained it was in his personality. This obsession reflects his desire for control and superiority. Here, the Maharaja's desire for exclusivity in hunting tigers reflects his belief in his own dominance. This shows his arrogance and the way he exercises power over both nature and people. Here, the astrologer's prophecy foreshadows the tragic irony of Maharaja's fate. This sets up the theme of inescapable fate. Here, the king dismisses the prophecy, highlighting his arrogance. This shows his belief that he could defy fate through sheer willpower. Here, despite his efforts to fulfill the prophecy in his own way, the Maharaja meets his end in an ironic twist. This emphasizes the theme of fate and its unyielding nature. Here, the Maharaja dies from a toy tiger, ironically fulfilling the astrologer's prophecy. This highlights the tragic irony of the story and the futility of human efforts to control fate. The Diwan deceives the Maharaja to protect his own life here. This demonstrates political manipulation and the lens people will go for survival. Here, the British officer's desire to kill a tiger represents the colonial mindset during British rule. This highlights the power dynamics between the British and Indian rulers during colonialism. Here, instead of providing a real tiger, the Maharaja offers the British officer a symbolic substitute. This showcases the Maharaja's pride in controlling the situation even at the cost of deception. Here, the king's tiger hunts are not just personal pursuits, they are public events. This reflects the Maharaja's need to showcase his power to the public and maintain his image as a fearless ruler. Here, the Maharaja's pride in his killings is shown through his display of tiger skins. This symbolizes his desire to conquer nature and assert his dominance. Here, despite his efforts, the king is unable to kill the 100th tiger, symbolizing his inability to fully control fate. This moment reveals the limits of his power and foreshadows his downfall. Here, the king dies from a toy tiger, fulfilling the prophecy in an unexpected way. This reinforces the theme of fate and the unpredictability of his realization. Here, the king's obsession with tigers leads to neglecting the needs of his people and his kingdom. This highlights the destructive consequences of obsession and greed. Here, the toy tiger symbolizes the irony of the Maharaja's death. It represents the ultimate triumph of fate over the king's arrogance and hubris. Now, let us look at the literary devices used by Kalki in the chapter The Tiger King. Irony. This irony emphasizes the theme that fate cannot be controlled no matter how much power one possesses. Satire. Kalki uses satire to mock not only the Maharaja's foolish obsession but also the colonial system and political manipulations. Foreshadowing, the prophecy hints that the Maharaja cannot escape his fate even though he tries to manipulate his destiny by hunting tigers. Symbolism, the tiger symbolizes the king's hubris and his attempt to overcome fate, ultimately leading to his downfall. Hyperbole. This hyperbole underscores the king's excessive pride and his belief that he can control everything. Metaphor. This metaphor suggests the Maharaja's confinement by his own ambitions and inability to escape the consequences of his actions. Allusion. The story uses these references to show how the Maharaja's fate is intertwined with cultural beliefs and how prophecies often come true despite human resistance. Personification. This personification adds to the idea that nature has an autonomous power that humans cannot control or manipulate. Contrast. Contrast emphasizes the gap between human ambition and the forces of nature that are beyond human control. Imagery. This imagery enhances the theme of the king's struggle with nature and the danger he faces, both physical and metaphorical. These literary devices and writing techniques help bring depth and richness to the Tiger King. By using irony, symbolism, and satire, the author crafts a story that is not only engaging but also filled with layers of meaning. Understanding these techniques will help you analyze the story more deeply and appreciate its complexities. Now, let us look at some of the keywords that can be used in writing your answers. Here are some common errors students often make when studying the Tiger King. Students may fail to recognize the irony in the Maharaja's death by the toy tiger, mistaking it for a simple accident rather than a deeper commentary on his hubris. Emphasize how the toy tiger serves as a symbol of the Maharaja's attempt to control fate and the ironic twist of his demise. Some students might not fully understand the symbolic importance of the tiger, seeing it merely as an animal rather than a representation of power, destiny, and nature's force. Focus on the role of the tiger in the narrative, both as a literal creature and a metaphor for the Maharaja's obsession with power. Students might treat the astrologer's prophecy as a mere prediction instead of a device used to foreshadow the inevitable tragic end. Clarify how foreshadowing works to hint at future events, particularly the Maharaja's downfall, and how this adds depth to the narrative. Ignoring the colonial backdrop or the social and political implications of the Maharaja's actions can lead to a shallow understanding of the text. Discuss the setting of the story in the colonial period, examining how the Maharaja's actions reflect both his personal flaws and broader historical dynamics. Some students may focus too much on the plot and miss the evolution of the Maharaja's character from powerful ruler to tragic figure. Students may analyze the character arc, examining how the Maharaja's pride, ambition, and belief in his invincibility lead to his downfall. Students might oversimplify the story's moral lessons, reducing it to just a cautionary tale about arrogance without considering the complexities of power, fate, and responsibility. Highlight the complex moral lessons that emerge, such as the dangers of unchecked ambition, the consequences of trying to control fate, and the role of destiny. Students may attempt to limit the themes to just one or two ideas, such as power or fate, without recognizing how they interconnect and support the narrative. Students may explore multi-interconnected themes like power, pride, fate, nature's dominance, and moral decay. Students sometimes make assertions about the story without supporting them with quotes or examples from the text. Stress the importance of providing reference to context, examples, and direct quotes to back up their analysis and arguments. Some students overlook the significance of the ending, focusing only on the build-up without analyzing the final twist and its impact on the story's message. Students may remain focused on the ending as a culmination of all the story's themes and symbolism, and to explore its broader implication. Misunderstanding the tone of the story, interpreting it as a simply tragic one without recognizing its satirical elements. Discuss the dark humor and satire in the story, highlighting how the tone reflects on the absurdities of the Maharaja's actions and the fatalism of his fate. By addressing these common errors, students can gain a deeper and more nuanced understanding of the Tiger King, allowing for more insightful analysis and well-rounded responses. Here are some tips to score full marks in this chapter. Thoroughly understand the central themes such as power, pride, fate, and the role of nature. Be able to connect these themes through the actions of the Maharaja and the eventual consequences of his behavior. Be able to identify and explain literary devices like irony, symbolism, foreshadowing, and metaphor. Always provide examples from the text to support your analysis. Always back up your answers with quotes from the story. Direct references to the text show your understanding and ability to support your points. Make sure the quotes are relevant to the question being asked. The ending of the story is crucial. Be sure to analyze the ironic twist of the Maharaja's death by a toy tiger and how it lies into the overall themes of the story. Discuss its significance and how it reinforces the message of faith and pride. If asked to discuss the historical or cultural context, connect the story to the colonial legacy or the era it sets in. Consider the power dynamics of the time and how they shape the character's behavior. When writing essays or long answers, always plan your response before you start. Make an outline of the points you want to cover, ensuring a structured and clear flow of ideas. While emphasizing key points, avoid unnecessary repetitions. Ensure each paragraph introduces a new idea or analysis rather than repeating the same point. Always read the question carefully and make sure your response is directly relevant. Don't stray off topic by bringing in irrelevant and unrelated themes or plot details. Stay focused on the specific aspects of the chapter the question asked about. Use keywords or phrases from the story like hubris, fatalistic viewpoint, symbolism, etc. to enhance your responses and demonstrate your understanding of the story's language and structure. After writing your answer, always take a moment to proofread for spelling, grammar, and clarity. A well-written answer is easier to follow and will score better. By applying these strategies, you will improve your chances of scoring full marks. Keep practicing and remember to stay organized and critical in your analysis. That's all for today's deep dive into the Tiger King. I hope you found the analysis and tips helpful for acing your exams. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more insights and tips on English Core. Hit the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest videos. Let's work together to achieve that perfect score. See you in the next one.